And one of the disciples it's a fig tree, and it's February or whatever. It's going to be about 6 months before it produces fruit and they ripen. So in 6 months you can pick fruit. And Jesus gets mad and says, "Fuck you, tree!" And he magics it, and the tree withers and croaks. Fortune cookie. You may have a fantastic opportunity soon. Be open to it in bed.
In bed. Welcome to Two Gaming Dudes.
Charles, what is one of the greatest miracles in all of Christianity?
In all of Christianity?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the water into wine.
No. The resurrection.
Oh.
Coming back from the dead. Come on, man.
Okay.
You know,
I call that second best, but all right.
I do like the wine. We're going to go over here Jesus' resurrections.
Okay.
Because it wasn't just Jesus himself that rose from the dead.
Oh, he
A lot of people rose from the dead.
This.
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, other prophets could also raise from the dead. Elijah and Elisha, who were two different people.
Okay.
Today, we're just going to concentrate on the man himself, Jesus. Because Jesus could really fuck up a funeral.
That's fair enough.
So the first,
and he could turn water into wine.
He could. So. Which is a great story, because when they're at the wedding, his mom, the Virgin Mary, comes to him and says, "Son, it's a catastrophe. They're out of wine." And Jesus' first words were, quote, I'm quoting this, "Woman, what has that to do with me?" And she was like, "Can you do some hocus pocus?"
And he's like, "Oh."
Yeah. I came here to enjoy the wedding, not to work. Anyway, okay.
All right.
Jairus. Jairus' daughter died.
That's a
one
bummer.
day.
All right.
And Jairus was this big wig, this very fancy guy. He was important in the temple and in the city, very big player.
Okay.
Jairus. And they're like, they send somebody, she was sick. She's sick and she's on her deathbed. And they send somebody like, "Jesus, we've heard that you can do miracles. Will you come to the temple and cure my daughter? She's very ill with, I don't know, dengue fever or some Bronze Age
or
bullshit."
whatever it is they have. All right, sure.
And Jesus is like, I'm kind of in the middle of a shawarma sandwich right now, but as soon as I wrap up here, we'll come over to your place and I'll cure her leprosy or whatever she's
got.
But he takes so long, a couple days. By the time he gets there, she's dead already.
So it's like when someone asks me to do something.
Yeah. So they get there and they're like, "Oh, Lord, you were eating your falafel sandwich and it took you so long to arrive. The girl is already dead." Oh. He's like, fuck that. Don't worry about it. "Hey, bitch, get up." And she miraculously rises up and she's alive again.
That was it?
That was it. That's all it took.
Well, that was easy.
No CPR or,
no
shot paddles. He just said, "Hey." And then another time, he was strolling to the town of Nain, which you've probably never heard of. It's like
no one's heard of that.
It's like Springfield, Illinois for the Mideast. It's like, nobody's ever been there, whatever.
All right.
And there's a funeral procession going by. I guess back then the whole town would carry the coffin of the deceased to the burial ground.
Okay.
It was a communal thing to bury the person. And this poor kid died. And the mother was a widow. So now she's like completely alone. And that's like economic death sentence. Because she's a woman, she's not allowed to own property.
Oh.
Or earn a living or have any rights of her own. She doesn't have a male to be like her spokesperson. And Jesus is like, shit, that sucks. And he knocks out like, tuk, tuk, tuk. "Hey, kid, get up." And the kid like pops up. "Oh man, what was that?" "You're alive now. Go take care of your ma." Everybody's like, "All right, that's cool." And the big one, of course, is the story of Lazarus.
Okay.
Who was, Jesus and Lazarus were childhood friends. And he died.
Okay.
He died. And his sister, Martha, came to Jesus and said, "Bad news, Jesus, or your best friend, my brother Lazarus is dead. He's gone." And Jesus is like, I'll take care of it." And she says, "He's been dead for 4 days." And they go to the tomb.
Right.
And he's like, "Move that rock out of that tomb." And then the people there are like, "Oh, no, boss. He's been dead for 4 days, and there is a tremendous stench coming from the tomb."
It is quite disgusting.
Have you ever seen a dead raccoon on the side of the road?
Oh, yeah.
After a couple days, what happens?
Like after 2 days, and it's already like, whoa.
Now imagine 4 days in the Mideast heat. That's a fucking biohazard.
Right.
That's not just a dead body. But instead, they move the rock away. Ooh, it stinks. And Jesus doesn't even go in there because it stinks. He's not going to. He just hollers,
Right.
"Yo, Lazarus, get your bitch ass out here, man!" And Lazarus gets up, still covered in like gauze, like the mummy gauze that they put on him.
Right.
Decomposing and like a zombie, all retarded, like, I'm alive again.
And then Jesus just turns around and goes, "You're welcome," and then walks away and like, enjoy your zombie.
What happens to these three people afterwards? What is the next?
I don't know.
I mean, I know you've never read the thing, but
no,
logically, what would be the next?
I mean,
step?
you died, then you got brought back, so I imagine you're going to die again eventually, right? Or
Well, I mean, we don't know.
Or
You never hear of them again.
okay,
It's never brought up again. You've been dead for 4 days. What was it like? Where did you go? What did you see? Did you go to heaven? What's heaven look? Nothing.
nothing.
Just, all right, back to work. You were dead and now you're alive. Great, move on with lives.
And that's it.
There's no mention anywhere, like the local authorities got report of a dead man coming back to life. Nobody went to investigate. There's no contemporary sources writing like, holy shit, this guy elevated from the... Nothing. They just never bring it up again. And then Jesus himself gets killed and resurrected.
And resurrected him. But his resurrection was like different, right? Because he comes back to life and then he's like, hey, I'm back. And then doesn't he like ascend to godhood? I just always assumed that ended with him coming out of the mountain or wherever the hell he was. And he was like, I'm back, bitches. And then a light beam shoots up to the sky and then he goes up into the air or something.
That's actually closer to how Muhammad dies.
Oh, okay.
Muhammad got on a horse, and the horse like farted fire. It was a flaming column of fire, and the horse went up to heaven. And Jesus, what we know is somebody went to the tomb, and basically a bunch of women went to the tomb to do some funerary ritual, and the tomb was empty. And there was, all the Gospels give a different story on what happened. None of them agree. Not even how many days had passed, who went to the tomb, who was in the tomb. Some say it was an angel, some say it was empty, some say it was just a guy that said, oh yeah, Jesus is gone. Where is he? He resurrected.
He resurrected, he left.
Oh, all right. And then they went and told the disciples, hey, he resurrected. How do you know? Well, he wasn't in the tomb.
Oh, all right.
I guess he raised from the dead.
So you ran into a dude, yeah, and he said Jesus just got up and left, huh? Yep. And he was wearing all of Jesus' old stuff? Yeah. Yeah.
Another interesting point, at the time of the resurrection, nobody mentions it because they don't read further along, and you don't learn about this in Sunday school. The book clearly states all of the tombs in Jerusalem opened up, and the dead were walking amongst the living.
Oh.
You understand what I'm saying? All the graves in the city opened, and all the dead zombies and corpses got up and started walking around.
All these skeletons and things, I guess.
There's no mention of that again after that either. No contemporary.
And it's one of those things that they left in the book that people just try to ignore.
It's precisely what you'd expect from a book written by illiterate morons who have no clue what they're doing. They're just making shit up. This childish nonsense.
I remember I used to go to like church with my grandma, one of those Baptist churches. And every time I would go, he would pick like 2 or 3 random paragraphs. So he'd like read a paragraph, and then he'd tell you to turn 500 pages and read a different paragraph, and then it would be over, and he would just talk about it. And the next time it would be totally different. I'm like, do we not tell a consecutive story when we're here?
No, they can't.
Apparently not.
Because you're
then
reading-
you get into zombies.
You're reading translations of translations of translations of copies of copies of copies of translations of copies of hundreds of years of oral tradition. And each time, the fish, I caught a fish, it was this big. And it was this big. The fish was this big. He resurrected from the fucking dead. I mean, my favorite of these Jesus stories is the parable of Jesus and the fig tree. It's in Matthew and Mark 11 and 21. And you can look it up just as easily. They're walking along, and Jesus is like, I'm feeling a little peckish. Let's get a little something to eat. And they're walking by, there's a fig tree. Like, let's go grab some fruit off that tree. And they walk over there, and there's no fruit on the tree. And Jesus gets mad. And one of the disciples it's a fig tree, and it's February or whatever. It's going to be about 6 months. before it produces fruit and they ripen. So in 6 months you can pick fruit. And Jesus gets mad and says, "Fuck you, tree!" And he magics it and the tree withers and croaks. Because he was mad at it. 'Cause he's hungry. Mind you, this is the same Jesus who turned water to wine.
Right.
Who fed 5,000 people with 2 loaves and 2 fish.
Oh, yeah.
But now he couldn't make a tree. He's mad at the tree.
Yes.
This is like, we're going skiing in Colorado, and I got my boots and my skis and my lycra spandex suit, so I look like some gay West German, and my cool helmet with a swoop, and we're ready to my poles, and we get to the mountain, and we're looking up there. There's no fucking snow on the mountain. And you're like, "It's July, sir." Fuck this fucking mountain. Colorado sucks. This is the exact same
story.
Dumb bullshit. It just is impossible to take you people seriously. And I had a guy complaining in the chat afterwards, "I'm not going to discuss this with you because you just want to mock me." Like, well, this is deserving of mockery because it's fucking ridiculous.
Right, and it's like, all right, if it's not deserving of mockery, can you just explain? Is this story real? And
Right. Then explain to me
can
why
you
it
back it up at all? I mean, do you have anything?
He wouldn't engage. He's like, "No, because you're just going to make fun of it." Like, okay, I promise I won't make fun of it unless you tell me something more stupid. I want your real reason for why you think this is real. "No, you're going to make fun of me." Then you don't want to engage. No.
Right.
Okay, well, even though you're commanded to give the reason for your faith, but you're not going to do it. "No, because you're going to make fun." Okay, fuck off.
It's fine. Because at that point, you don't have a reason. You just have a belief. You just have this thing that I believe in.
Why?
You can't prove it. You can't explain it. Nothing. And
You know, if you're going to count on miracles, give me a miracle that's an actual miracle. Right? If you pray, "Take away my cancer." And God says, "Well, are you still going to chemo and radiation treatments?" "Yeah." "Well, then maybe I'll take away your cancer." And the cancer goes away, and it's a miracle. But if they die, well, then your faith wasn't strong enough. Because when they came back, some people will try to explain that fig parable. Christian apologists will tell you, no, this was he was telling a story. And the story is because the tree represents humanity. And even though from a distance it looks like a fruit tree, when you get close, you can see that it's barren. And it's not really deserving of God's love because it looks like it's going to have fruit, but there's no fruit on it. And then that's why it's been destroyed.
And that tree was not deserving of God's love.
So when they're coming back, one of the disciples, "Oh, hey, look, there's the tree that you smited. And here's an opportunity for Jesus to explain that tree represented humanity and it did not have fruit on it." But that's not what he said. So this whole parable, they pulled this out of their ass.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't say anything like that. Jesus says, when they go back and the disciples are like, "Hey, there's the tree you magicked. What for?" Jesus says, "Anything that you believe in. If there is a mountain and you stare at the mountain and your faith command the mountain, fall into the ocean. If your faith is strong enough, it will come true. But if it doesn't, it's because your faith wasn't strong enough."
And would you know it, nobody's faith seems to be strong enough. Everybody keeps drowning in the river.
Once a year, on average, a Pentecostal gets bit by a venomous snake and dies.
Oh, for crying out loud.
The assholes that I love, they can talk in tongues and they handle the poisonous snake. Once a year, one of them gets bit and dies.
Of course.
And if you go to the most faithful, devout son of a bitch, tell him, "Prove your faith. Jump off this fucking tall building." Everybody in that congregation is hold on a second, everybody.
Wait.
Because you're not really that fucking stupid.
Right.
And every once in a while, you get some lunatic that does end up dying like that. Because they think, "Oh, that comet is a sign from God." And that the Hale Bop cult, they all end up dead. So, when you do push it to that point, reality eventually wins.
Here's what I really hate. I hate stories where you have to backtrack to explain why it was a certain way. And we've done it with lots of stuff in Hollywood.
Yeah.
there was something, I had an argument with somebody over a DC comic book character. We were talking about Starfire. She's that chick with huge knockers.
Yeah.
And she dresses in tiny little skimpy things.
Teen Titans.
Yeah. And he was like, oh, in the comics, she dresses in this really skimpy thing. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty hot. And he goes, no, you don't understand. On her home world, blah, blah. And like this whole explanation, like, that came later.
Yeah.
He drew it first. He drew this hot chick who was tall and had huge knockers and like there. And then had to back up and explain, why did I do this? Right? So that's what you end up with. You end up with this story where like, and he held 2 snakes and whipped them around like this. And like, could you explain that? And then you have to, okay, so I have to back up and try to explain how did we get here. And then you probably have to back up again and explain how you got there to explain how you got here.
Except, unlike in a comic book, here when you write a new holy book, it's blasphemy. Because if the Pentateuch, the Hebrew books, the Torah and the Tanakh were issue 1, the New Testament, Christianity, is issue 2, and the Quran and Islam is issue 3. And all of you claim yours is the only official version. All the others are non-canon. You're all convinced your shit is right. Yep. And you reject the other 2, to say nothing of then the Hindus and the Sikhs and the insert thousands of religions here. Only yours is correct.
To stay with the whole Starfire thing, most of the storylines and stuff, it's made by fans.
Yeah.
It's just some fan out there on Twitter was like, well, I think, and then they come up with this crazy fan theory, and then a bunch of people follow it, and they're like, yep, that's got to be it. So, likewise, you don't have to write a new Bible. You just need enough people to like tell you their own made-up backstory. And
yeah, Charles, you've just explained why there's 9,000 fucking denominations of Christianity. Because every son of a bitch comes up with their own nonsense story.
Their own backstory as to how this probably actually happened.
Because the creator of all things, the all-knowing, all-powerful governor of the universe, who understands instantly the position of every electron in every atom of the universe, figured the best way to communicate with his creation was by writing shit down in a language that nobody's going to speak a couple hundred years from now. Make it so vague that 9,000 people come up with their own, and then never interact with them again and set them straight on what I really wanted them to do. I'm just going to let them burn each other and decapitate each other for 2,000 years.
Yep.
Because that's good, loving God.
That's right.
Can you be fucking sincere for a minute? This is stupid.
So you gave them these really vague, what happens if they fuck up? Oh, burn forever.
You're right.
How the hell is that fair?
Mysterious
not into
ways.
that.
Mysterious ways, Charles.
Leave some comments down below. Let us know what you think of these parables and stories and things. Is there any truth to them? And if there is truth to it, you're going to have to explain why you think that. Because I'm not buying it right now.
Well, there is a school of thought called the Jesus mythicists, who say, perhaps, you can never prove any of this, there was a real preacher wandering around the Middle East at the time. His name might have been Yeshua, and he may have taught some things and had some disciples.
Okay.
There were probably lots of those at the time. In fact, there was one contemporary who was in Egypt telling kind of the same kind of story.
All right.
And he got crucified too for not shutting the fuck up. It's very possible there was a guy named Jesus.
Sure.
But once you start adding in the magic and the hocus pocus and the supernatural bullshit, you've taken it somewhere else. Now I'm going to need a little more. So the thought is there was a guy, Jesus, he taught some stuff, he died. Some people took it and ran with it. And before you know it, a couple tellings later, sitting around the fire telling the story of this guy in Judea, suddenly he can cure lepers and walk on water. And he's the Son of God.
And he
in fact, he actually is God coming down in his own form.
Yeah, and he caught a fish this big.
And he brought up some zombies.
Oh yeah, don't forget the zombies.
All
right.
Humanity will not survive until we abandon this nonsense.
I am looking forward to Christian Zombie Massacre when that movie comes out. And in the meantime, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe.
Si, senor.
We'll see you in another episode.
Bye now.
Later.